The coffee pot slipped in my hand when I saw him. Not enough to drop it. I'd worked at Rossi's diner long enough that my reflexes had memorized the weight of everything breakable. But enough that my pulse jumped, that my breath caught somewhere between my ribs and throat. He sat in the corner booth, the one we called the broker's seat, because it faced both exits. Most customers didn't notice.
He had dark suit that probably cost more than my rent.
Hands folded on the table, utterly still. And those eyes, God. Those eyes tracked every movement in the diner like he was calculating trajectories, counting exits, measuring threats in the middle-aged truck driver and the college kids cramming for exams. I'd seen dangerous men before. This city bred them in the shadows between skyscrapers. But this man didn't just look dangerous. He looked like danger had looked in the mirror and learned something new about itself. Table 7 needs a refill. Mira, my manager's voice snapped me back. I grabbed the pot, steadied my hands, and crossed the black and white checkered floor. The dinner rush had thinned to a trickle of late-night stragglers. Outside, October rain hammered against the windows, turning the streetlights into blurred halos of gold. As I approached his booth, his gaze lifted. Met mine. The impact was physical, like stepping into a live wire. Coffee? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Please. His voice was low, textured like smoke over gravel. Not a request. A command made polite by a single word. I poured, hyper-aware of how close I was standing. He smelled like expensive cologne and something else. Gunpowder? No, that was paranoia talking. I'd been watching too many true crime documentaries during my sleepless nights. Can I get you anything else? Your name. My hand froze mid-pour. It's on my tag. His mouth curved, not quite a smile. I prefer to hear you say it. Mira. I set the pot down, suddenly needing both hands free. Some instinct older than logic, older than civilization. Mira Lawson. Dante Vittori. He extended his hand. I knew that name. Everyone in this city knew that name, even if they pretended not to. The Vittori family owned half the waterfront, a dozen legitimate businesses, and, according to whispers that never reached official investigations, significantly less legitimate operations that made the legitimate ones possible. I should have walked away. Should have made an excuse. Any excuse. Instead, I shook his hand. His grip was warm, firm, and lasted exactly 2 seconds longer than professional. When he released me, my palm tingled like I'd touched something electric. You're here late, Mira Lawson. Double shift. Rent doesn't pay itself. I grabbed the pot again, needing something to do with my hands. You're here late, too. I'm waiting for someone. Well, coffee's on the house if they stand you up. That almost smile again. They won't, the diner door chimed. 2 men entered, broad-shouldered, moving with the same predatory awareness as Dante. They scanned the room with professional efficiency before one nodded to the booth. Excuse me? Dante stood, leaving a $100 bill beside his untouched coffee. Sir, that's way too... Keep it. His gaze held mine. Something tells me our paths will cross again. He walked out with his men flanking him like wolves protecting their alpha. Through the rain-streaked window, I watched them climb into a black SUV with tinted windows, the kind of vehicle that cost more than I'd make in 5 years. I pocketed the $100 with shaking hands. What the hell just happened? 3 days later, I got the call that changed everything. Mira, it's Dr. Reeves from St. Catherine's. My stomach dropped. St. Catherine's was where my brother had been for the past 6 months, recovering from the accident that had stolen his ability to walk and nearly stolen his will to live. Is Tommy okay? Tommy's stable. But we have a unique situation. There's a patient here, a young man with a spinal injury similar to your brother's. His family specifically requested you. Me? I'm not a therapist, They know. They asked for you by name. Cold fingers traced my spine. Who requested me? A Mr. Dante Vittori. The phone nearly slipped from my hand. Miss Lawson? Are you there? I'm here. Barely. What does he want? His brother was in an accident 3 months ago. He's been through 4 physical therapists. Won't engage with any of them. But Mr. Vittori believes that since you've helped your brother maintain hope through his recovery, you might reach his brother where professionals have failed. I'm not qualified. He's offering $50,000. Half up front, half when his brother shows measurable improvement. The number hit me like a physical blow. $50,000 would cover Tommy's medical bills, would give me breathing room, would mean I could cut back on the double shifts that were slowly grinding me down to nothing. Why me? I whispered. I asked him that. He said, Dr. Reeves paused. He said you have something that can't be taught. Genuine compassion. He said he saw it in your eyes. My knees went weak. I sat down hard on my apartment's second-hand couch. Dante Vittori had looked into my eyes for maybe 90 seconds in a diner. And somehow he'd seen straight through to something I hadn't even known I was revealing. When do I start? Tomorrow. 2 p.m. Ask for the private wing. After I hung up, I sat in the silence of my tiny apartment and tried to convince myself this was just a job. Just money I desperately needed to help my brother. But my racing heart knew better. I'd just agreed to step into Dante Vittori's world, and something told me there would be no stepping back out. St. Catherine's private wing looked nothing like the regular hospital where Tommy received care. Marble floors, original artwork on walls that probably cost more than my student loans. The kind of quiet that came from money insulating itself from the chaos of ordinary suffering. The guard at the entrance checked my ID 3 times before escorting me down a hushed corridor. My sneakers squeaked against the polished floor, a sound that would have been embarrassing anywhere else but here felt almost obscene, like I was violating sacred silence. We stopped outside a door marked only with a number, 308. Mr. Vittori is expecting you, the guard said, which was when I realized he meant Dante. My pulse kicked. I'd spent all night convincing myself I might not see him, that I'd work with his brother, and maybe never cross paths with those dark eyes again. The door opened. Dante stood backlit by afternoon sun streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He'd traded the suit for dark jeans and a black sweater that somehow made him look more dangerous, not less. Like seeing a wolf without its civilized veneer, Mira. My name and his voice did something to my nervous system I didn't want to examine. Thank you for coming. You're paying me enough that thank you seems redundant. The words came out sharper than I'd intended, a defense mechanism against the way his presence filled the room, his mouth curved. Still, not everyone would accept. Why wouldn't they? Because they've heard my name. The honesty caught me off guard. He held my gaze, and I realized he was giving me one more chance. One more opportunity to walk away, before I crossed whatever invisible line existed between his world and mine. I stepped inside. Where's your brother? On the terrace? He likes the air, even when it's cold. Dante led me through a suite that looked more like a luxury apartment than a hospital room. Hardwood floors, leather furniture, a kitchen I'd seen in design magazines. Then through glass doors onto a sprawling terrace where a young man sat in a state-of-the-art wheelchair, staring at the city below. He was younger than Dante, maybe 23, with the same dark hair but softer features. Where Dante was all sharp edges and controlled violence, his brother looked like someone had taken those same genetic materials and created something gentler. Until he turned to look at us, and I saw his eyes, dead, completely, utterly dead. Luca, Dante said quietly, this is Mira Lawson. She's going to spend some time with you. Another one? Luca's voice was flat. How much did you pay this one to pretend to care? Luca, I don't want her here. I don't want anyone here. How many times do I have to— 3, I interrupted, walking past Dante to stand in front of Luca's wheelchair. It's been 3 months since your accident. You're angry. You have every right to be angry, but you don't get to take it out on me before you even know my name. Luca stared at me, shock breaking through his mask of apathy. Behind me, I felt Dante go very still. My brother Tommy was in an accident 6 months ago. I continued, crouching down so I was at Luca's eye level. Drunk driver ran a red light. Tommy was on his motorcycle. The doctor said he'd never walk again. Want to know what he said to the first therapist who tried to work with him? Luca said nothing, but I saw the flicker of curiosity. He told her to go to hell. Then he told the second one the same thing. And the third. Then he tried to tell me to leave him alone, to let him rot in that hospital bed, that his life was over. What did you do? The question came out hoarse. I told him he was right. His old life was over. The life where he rode motorcycles and climbed mountains and thought he was invincible. That life died in the intersection with the drunk driver. But that didn't mean he couldn't build a new one. A different one. Maybe even a better one if he was brave enough. And was he? Luca's eyes had changed. Not quite alive, but no longer dead. Something else. Waiting. He's walking with a cane now. 50 feet yesterday. He said next week he's aiming for 100. Silence fell over the terrace. Somewhere below, the city hummed and growled. Up here, 3 people existed in a bubble of held breath. I don't believe you, Luca whispered. I pulled out my phone, showed him the video from yesterday. Tommy, gripping his cane, face contorted with effort and determination, taking slow, agonizing steps down the hospital corridor. At the end, his whoop of triumph made Luca's mouth twitch. Not quite a smile, but close. He's my hero, I said softly. Want to know why? Luca nodded, and I realized tears were tracking down his face. Because every single day, he chooses to fight, even when it hurts, even when he wants to quit, even when the progress is so small it's almost invisible. He fights, and that makes him the bravest person I know. I straightened, gave Luca a moment to wipe his eyes. So, do you want to fight? Or should I leave and tell your brother to save his money? I want to fight. The words were barely audible. I don't know how anymore, but I want to. That's enough for today. That's more than enough. I squeezed his shoulder. I'll see you tomorrow, Luca. Same time. I walked back toward the suite, my heart hammering. I'd probably overstepped, probably said too much, pushed too hard. Dante followed me inside, closing the terrace doors behind us. No one's ever talked to him like that. His voice was rough. The therapists, the doctors, they all handled him like glass. Like he might shatter. He's already shattered. He doesn't need careful. He needs honest. Dante moved closer. I held my ground even though every instinct screamed at me to step back. Not from fear. From something far more dangerous. You surprised me. He was so close now I could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. I don't surprise easily. Is that why you really asked for me? To see if I'd surprise you? I asked for you because you're the only person who looked at me in that diner and didn't flinch. Didn't pretend. You saw exactly what I was and you shook my hand anyway. His fingers brushed my wrist. Barely a touch, but it burned. What are you, Dante? The question escaped before I could stop it. Dangerous. No hesitation. In ways you can't imagine. But not to you. Never to you. You can't promise that. No, he agreed, his thumb tracing a circle on my pulse point where my heart betrayed me with its racing rhythm. But I can try. And I'm a man who keeps his promises, Mira. The door opened. One of his men, the one from the diner, stood in the entrance, his expression carefully neutral. Sir, we have a situation. Dante released my wrist immediately, his entire demeanor shifting. The man who'd been touching me with devastating gentleness vanished, replaced by someone cold and commanding. Handle it. I'll be down in 5 minutes. The man nodded and disappeared. Dante turned back to me, and I saw the war in his eyes, between who he'd been 30 seconds ago and who he needed to be now. There's a car waiting for you downstairs. It will take you wherever you need to go. I can take the subway. No. The word was absolute. You're under my protection now. That means you don't take chances with your safety. I didn't agree to. You agreed when you walked through that door, when you made my brother cry for the first time in 3 months, when you became important to him. His jaw tightened. That makes you important to me. And what's important to me, I protect. He walked me to the elevator, his hand on the small of my back, possessive and protective in equal measure. The doors opened and I stepped inside. Same time tomorrow? I asked. Same time tomorrow. He held my gaze as the doors began to close. And Mira? Be careful. People are watching you now. People who would use you to get to me. The elevator descended, but his warning stayed with me, coiling in my stomach like ice. I'd wanted to help. To earn money for Tommy's care. To do something good. But as the black SUV pulled up and a silent driver opened the door for me, I realized I'd done something else entirely. I'd become a piece on Dante Vittori's chessboard, and the game had only just begun. The SUV driver didn't ask for my address. He just knew that should have terrified me. Instead, I felt something else. A hyper-awareness that made my skin feel too tight. Like my body understood a threat my mind hadn't fully processed. Yet we pulled up outside my apartment building, a converted brownstone in a neighborhood that was trying desperately to gentrify but hadn't quite made it. The driver stayed in the car, engine running, while I climbed the steps to my third-floor walk-up. Inside, I locked the door. Then checked it twice. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. The car will pick you up tomorrow at 1:30. D.I. stared at the message. He had my number. Of course he did. Men like Dante Vittori didn't leave things to chance. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I should tell him to stop. That I'd find my own way. That I didn't need or want his protection. Instead, I typed, "Thank you." 3 dots appeared immediately. Disappeared. Appeared again. Sleep well. Mira. I didn't sleep well. I lay in the dark, listening to sirens wail in the distance, and thought about the way Dante had touched my wrist. The way he'd looked at me like I was a puzzle he was determined to solve, even if the solution destroyed them both. At 3 a.m., my phone lit up with a text from Tommy. Doc says I can go home next month. Thank you for everything, sis. Love you. Tears burned behind my eyes. This was why I'd said yes. This was what mattered, not the dangerous pull toward a man who dealt in violence and secrecy. Not the way my pulse raced when he stood too close. Not the insane part of me that wanted to know what his carefully controlled exterior hid underneath. I was doing this for Tommy. Only for Tommy. Repeated it like a mantra until the lie almost felt like truth. The next afternoon, Luca was waiting on the terrace when I arrived. He'd positioned his wheelchair facing the door, and his eyes tracked me with an alertness that hadn't been there yesterday. You came back. I said I would. I set my bag down on one of the iron chairs. Did you think I wouldn't? Everyone leaves eventually. The words carried weight that had nothing to do with physical therapists. I thought of Dante's warning, people who would use you to get to me, and wondered what scars these brothers carried beneath their expensive clothes and controlled expressions. I'm here now. That's what matters. I pulled out a folder. I talked to your doctors. Got your full medical history, your range of motion assessments, everything. Want to know what I think? Luca nodded. I think you've given up. Not because you can't improve, but because you're afraid to try and fail. It's safer to quit before you start than to fight and lose. His hands clenched on the wheelchair arms. You don't know it, you're right. I don't know. So tell me. I sat down across from him. Tell me why you've decided this is as good as it gets. Because I was going to... He cut himself off, jaw tight. It doesn't matter now. It matters to Dante. Dante has more important things to worry about than my legs. Does he? Because from where I'm sitting, you're the most important thing in his world. Luca laughed, bitter and sharp. Is that what he told you? He didn't have to. I see it in the way he looks at you. Like you're the only thing keeping him human. Luca's expression cracked. For a moment, I saw past the anger to the fear underneath, raw and overwhelming. I was supposed to take over the Eastern operations, he whispered. Dante spent 5 years preparing me, teaching me, trusting me, and then one drunk driver and a patch of ice, and suddenly I'm useless. A liability he has to protect instead of an asset he can depend on. You think your value to your brother depends on your ability to walk? In our world? Yes. Then your world is wrong. I leaned forward. And deep down, Dante knows that. Otherwise, he wouldn't have brought me here. He wouldn't have spent God knows how much money trying to reach you. He'd have written you off and moved on. Luca wiped his eyes roughly. He can't afford weakness. Not with the Moretti family circling. Not with the feds investigating the waterfront contracts. Not with... He stopped. I shouldn't be telling you this. Probably not, I agreed. But it helps me understand. Understand what? Why you're so desperate to protect him that you'd rather die inside than be a burden. Silence. Then quietly, it's not living. This half-life in a chair, watching him sacrifice everything to keep me safe, while his empire crumbles around him. So don't watch. Fight. Get strong enough to stand beside him again. Maybe not the way you planned, but a new way. Better way. You make it sound possible. Tommy thought it was impossible too. Now he's walking. I stood, walked to the terrace railing. Below, the city sprawled, beautiful and brutal and utterly indifferent to the dramas playing out in its shadows. You have something Tommy didn't have. Resources, time, money for the best equipment, the best doctors, everything you need. All that's missing is the will. And you think you can give me that? No, only you can give yourself that. I'm just here to remind you when you forget. Behind me, I heard the wheelchair move. Luca rolled up beside me, following my gaze to the city below. How much is Dante paying you? Enough. It's not enough. Luca's voice was soft. Whatever he's paying, it's not enough for what you're about to walk into. Ice trickled down my spine. What do you mean? You're good for me. I can feel it. Which means Dante will want you around. Which means... He stopped, seeming to choose his words carefully. People pay attention to what my brother protects. And once they notice you, Mira, you'll have a target on your back whether you want one or not. Maybe I'm tougher than I look. Maybe. He met my eyes. But tough doesn't stop bullets. The terrace door opened. Dante stood in the entrance, and I knew immediately that something had changed. He moved differently, coiled tighter, eyes colder. Luca, I need a moment with Mira. It wasn't a request. Luca squeezed my hand once, a warning or an apology, I couldn't tell which, and rolled back inside. Dante waited until his brother was gone before speaking. Did Luca tell you anything about our business? He told me you're under pressure. That's all. That's enough. He closed the distance between us. I need you to understand something. The work you're doing with Luca, it matters. More than you know. But it also puts you in a dangerous position. He warned me. Said people might target me. They already are. His hand came up, fingers trailing along my jaw with devastating gentleness. Someone took photographs of you entering the hospital yesterday. They're asking questions about who you are, why I've brought you into Luca's life. My breath caught. What do they think? That you're important to me. His thumb brushed my lower lip, and I felt the touch everywhere. They're right, Dante, I can protect you. But only if you let me. That means drivers, guards, restrictions on where you go, who you see. That's not protection. That's a cage. It's survival. His voice roughened. 3 nights ago, the Moretti family tried to hit one of my warehouses. We stopped them, but barely. They're getting bolder, and they will use anyone close to me as leverage. Then maybe I should... Don't. The word came out harsh. Don't say you'll leave. Luca talked more in 10 minutes with you than he has in 3 months. You're helping him. And He stopped, jaw clenched. I need you to stay. The confession hung between us, raw and honest in a way I suspected Dante rarely allowed himself to be. What are you asking me? To trust me. To let me keep you safe while you help my brother. His forehead dropped to mine, and God help me I didn't pull away. I know what I'm asking. I know the world I'm dragging you into. But I swear on everything I am, Mira, I won't let anything happen to you. You can't promise that. I can try. And when I try, cities burn. It should have sounded like arrogance. Instead, it sounded like prophecy. I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. If I stay, I need to know something. What happened to the men who hurt your brother? Dante's expression went arctic. Do you really want that answer? No, yes. I didn't know anymore. They're gone, he said finally. Completely. That's all you need to know. I should have been horrified. Should have run straight to the police with what I knew. What I'd guessed. What his eyes confirmed without words. Instead, I stayed frozen in place, caught between fear and something far more dangerous. Understanding. If someone had hurt Tommy, if I'd had the power Dante commanded, would I have shown mercy? I didn't want to answer that question. I'll stay, I whispered. For Luca. But Dante, I'm not yours to protect. I'm not yours at all. His smile was slow, predatory, and utterly devastating. Not yet. He kissed my forehead, a touch so gentle it made my chest ache, and walked back inside, leaving me alone on the terrace with the city spread below and the weight of consequences I couldn't yet imagine settling on my shoulders. Luca was right. I'd walked into something, and there was no walking back out. The guards appeared the next morning, 2 men in dark suits stationed outside my apartment building. They didn't approach me, didn't speak. just watched with the same predatory stillness I'd seen in Dante. At the diner, Marco, my manager, pulled me aside during my shift. "Mira, those guys outside, they've been there since 5 a.m. You in some kind of trouble?" "No, they're friends. Friends don't look like they're planning a murder." His weathered face creased with concern. "Whatever you're mixed up in, I'm helping someone with physical therapy. That's all. His family is protective." Marco studied me, and I saw the moment he connected the dots. Everyone in this neighborhood recognized Vittori Security. "Jesus, Mira, you're working for them?" "I'm working for money to help Tommy. Nothing illegal. Nothing wrong." "Nothing's ever that simple with that family." He squeezed my shoulder. "Be careful, kid. Once you're in their world, getting out is damn near impossible." His words echoed Luca's warning, and I felt the walls closing in, invisible but undeniable, built from choices I'd made thinking I could stay separate, stay safe, stay me. The shift crawled by. Every time the door chimed, I tensed. Every dark-haired man made my pulse spike until I confirmed it wasn't Dante. What the hell was wrong with me? 3 days ago, I'd been living my life. Exhausting, paycheck to paycheck, but mine. Now I was jumping at shadows and thinking about a man who'd probably killed people with the same hands that had traced my wrist with devastating gentleness. At 1:30, the black SUV pulled up right on schedule. Different driver today, younger, with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow. He opened the door without a word and I climbed in, hyper-aware of the guards following at a distance in a second vehicle. My phone buzzed. "Dante, how was your shift?" I stared at the message. He was checking on me, like I was something fragile that needed monitoring. "Fine, your security is making my manager nervous. I'll talk to him. Make sure he understands there's nothing to worry about. Don't you dare intimidate Marco." 3 dots. "Then, I prefer reassure. Despite everything?" I smiled. "Same thing in your vocabulary." "Probably. See you soon." At the hospital. I found Luca outside his room in the hallway, propelling his wheelchair using his arms. His face was flushed with effort, jaw clenched with determination. "How far?" I asked. "End of the hall and back. 3 times. Without anyone asking you to? You said fight, so I'm fighting." He stopped, breathing hard. "Hurts like hell." "Good. Pain means progress." I crouched beside him. "Tomorrow we add resistance bands. Day after, we start pool therapy." "Pool therapy?" "Water supports your body weight while you work the muscles. Tommy said it was the hardest and best thing he did." I pulled out my phone, showed Luca the detailed plan I'd drafted last night instead of sleeping. 6 months. That's my timeline for getting you walking with assistance. Maybe less if you keep pushing like this." Luca's eyes widened. "The doctors said. The doctors were working with someone who'd given up." "You haven't. That changes everything." He grabbed my hand, squeezed hard. "Thank you for seeing something in me I couldn't see in myself." Behind us, a throat cleared. Dante stood in the hallway, and the expression on his face made my breath catch. He was looking at his brother, really looking, and I saw past the cold Mafia boss exterior to something raw and aching underneath. Hope. He was letting himself hope. "Mira, can I speak with you?" Luca released my hand and rolled back toward his room, but not before I caught the knowing smile he tried to hide. Dante led me to a private office at the end of the hall, clearly his, with dark leather furniture and windows overlooking the city. He closed the door, and suddenly the space felt too small, too intimate. "I talked to Luca's doctors," he said quietly. "They said he's made more progress in 3 days than the previous 3 months combined. He's motivated now." "That's the difference. You're the difference." Dante moved closer, and I fought the urge to back away. Not from fear, but from the magnetic pull threatening to drag me under. "You gave him something no one else could. Hope." I just reminded him it was there. "No. You made him believe." His hand came up, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "Do you understand what that means to me?" "Dante, I've spent 3 months watching my brother die inside, watching him give up, and in 3 days, you brought him back." His voice roughened. "I owe you everything. You're paying me. We're even. Money doesn't cover this. could never cover this. The air between us felt charged, dangerous. I should have stepped back, should have established boundaries, should have done anything except stand there while his fingers traced the line of my jaw. "What do you want from me?" I whispered. "Everything. No hesitation. But I'll settle for letting me keep you safe. I don't need—" His phone rang. He ignored it. It rang again. His jaw tightened, but he reached for it, glancing at the screen. Whatever he saw made his entire demeanor shift, from the man touching me gently to someone cold and lethal. "I have to take this." He stepped away, turning toward the window. "What?" I couldn't hear the other end, but I watched Dante's shoulders tighten, watched his free hand curl into a fist. "When?" "No, I'm handling this personally. Tell Marco to secure the shipment, and find out who leaked the schedule." He paused. "I don't care what it takes. Find them!" He ended the call, stood motionless for 3 seconds, then turned back to me. The man from 30 seconds ago was gone completely, replaced by someone I barely recognized, someone capable of the violence his name promised. "I need to go." "The driver will take you home. What happened?" "Nothing you need to worry about. Dante. Mira." He crossed back to me, cupped my face with both hands. "Some parts of my life you don't get to see. Not because I don't trust you, but because I need you to stay clean, to stay separate. Do you understand? No? Good." He kissed my forehead, lingering for just a moment. "Keep being the kind of person who doesn't understand. It's the only thing keeping you safe from becoming like me." Then he was gone, leaving me alone in his office with city lights glittering below and the scent of his cologne still hanging in the air. I stood there for a long moment, trying to process what just happened. He'd been tender and cold in the span of seconds. He'd held me like I was precious and walked away like I was expendable. Which one was real? Maybe both, maybe neither. Maybe the truth was somewhere in the contradictions, in the space between the man who checked on my shift at work and the one who made people disappear without a trace. The driver took me home. The guards followed, and when I lay in bed that night, I couldn't stop thinking about the way Dante had looked at me, like I was something worth protecting. Even from himself. My phone buzzed at 2 a.m. "Sleep well? Mira, tomorrow will be easier." I stared at the message, then typed back, "You can't promise that." His response came immediately, "I can try. And I always keep my promises." I fell asleep with my phone clutched in my hand, and his words echoing through my dreams. A promise and a warning wrapped together so tightly I couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. The pool therapy room at St. Catherine's looked more like a luxury spa than a medical facility. Heated water, ambient lighting, privacy screens that cost more than my car. Luca gripped the parallel bars with white-knuckled intensity, his legs, strengthened by 4 weeks of relentless work, trembling as he tried to support his weight. "I can't." "You can." I stood beside him in the water, my hands ready to catch him if he fell. 5 more seconds. That's all I'm asking. His face contorted with effort. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool water. But he held it. 4 seconds, 5, 6, before his legs buckled. I caught him, helped him back into the wheelchair at the pool's edge. 7 seconds, I said. 3 more than yesterday. It's not enough. It's everything. I climbed out, grabbed towels for both of us. Progress isn't linear. Some days you'll manage 10 seconds. Some days you'll barely manage 2. That's normal. Normal. He laughed bitterly. I used to run 3 miles every morning. Used to spar with Dante's security team. Now I celebrate standing for 7 seconds in a pool. You're damn right you celebrate it. Because 7 seconds means next week will be 15. And 15 means a month from now you'll be walking with a walker. And 6 months from now? I crouched in front of him. 6 months from now, Dante's going to watch you walk across a room and he's going to cry. I guarantee it. Luca's eyes misted. He doesn't cry. He will. For you, he will. The door to the pool room opened. One of Dante's men, Carlo, the one with the scar, entered, his expression grim. Miss Lawson, I need you to come with me. Now. Ice flooded my veins. What happened? Nothing yet. But the boss wants you secured. There's been a situation. Luca's face went pale. What kind of situation? The kind where I follow orders and don't ask questions. Carlo's hand rested on the gun at his hip, not threatening, just ready. "Ma'am, please, I need to— Luca will be fine. 3 guards are already outside his room. But you—" He cut himself off, jaw tight. The boss was very clear about priorities, meaning me. Somehow, in 4 weeks of helping Luca, of growing closer to both brothers in ways I'd never intended, I'd become one of Dante's priorities. The realization should have terrified me. Instead, I felt something else. A warmth that had no business existing. Given everything I knew about what Dante was, what he did, the darkness he lived in. Carlo drove me not to my apartment but to a building in the financial district, all steel and glass and the kind of security that made Fort Knox look casual. We took a private elevator to the top floor, where the doors opened directly into a penthouse that took my breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city. Modern furniture that probably cost more than I'd earn in my lifetime, art I recognized from museums, and everywhere, the sense of controlled power that was pure Dante. He stood by the windows, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian. When he saw me, relief flickered across his face before he locked it down. "Stay there," he said into the phone, then switched to English. "I don't care what Moretti threatened. We don't negotiate with—" He listened, his jaw going tight. "Then make sure his family understands the consequences. Completely." He ended the call, turned to face me fully. "Are you okay?" The question came out rough. "I'm fine." Carlo said there was a situation. The Moretti family made a move on one of my lieutenants. They didn't just target him. They targeted his wife, his kids. His hands curled into fists. "It's a message. They're done playing by the old rules." What does that have to do with me? Everything. Because they know. He stopped, seemed to choose his words carefully. "They know I care about you. That makes you a target." My breath caught. "Dante, I shouldn't have let you get close. Shouldn't have brought you into this world. But I was selfish, and now—" He crossed to me in 3 strides, cupped my face with both hands. "Now I need you to stay here, where I know you're safe. Here, in your penthouse? Until this is over. However long that takes. I have work. I have Tommy, I'll handle everything. Your shifts at the diner are covered. Tommy has around-the-clock security. And Luca," his thumb brushed my cheekbone. "Luca would never forgive me if something happened to you because I was too proud to protect you properly. This is insane. This is survival." His forehead dropped to mine, and I felt him trembling. This powerful, dangerous man actually trembling. "I've lost so much, Mira, my parents, my innocence, any chance at a normal life, but I won't lose you. I can't. You don't own me. No, but God help me, I want to." The confession was raw, honest, devastating. "I want to keep you here in this penthouse where bullets can't reach you. I want to know every second of every day that you're breathing, that you're safe, that you're—" He stopped, his control cracking. "I'm falling for you. Have been since that first night in the diner when you looked at me without fear. And it's selfish and wrong and probably going to destroy us both, but I can't stop it." My heart hammered against my ribs. "Dante, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to feel the same way. Just let me protect you. That's all I'm asking." I should have said no. Should have drawn boundaries. Should have run from the intensity in his eyes and the truth in his voice. Instead, I kissed him. It was desperate and terrifying and perfect. His hand slid into my hair, pulling me closer, and I tasted surprise and hunger in equal measure. This was insanity. This was crossing every line I'd sworn I wouldn't cross. This was inevitable. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against mine. "Stay," he whispered. "Please." "For how long?" "As long as it takes to end this war. To make sure the Morettis understand what happens when they threaten what's mine. And then? Then you choose. Stay in my world, or walk away with enough money that you and Tommy never have to worry again." His eyes met mine, and I saw the fear underneath. Fear that I'd choose the money, the freedom, the escape from everything he represented. But for now, just stay alive. That's all I need. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. Dante's phone rang again. He glanced at it, his expression hardening. I have to go. Carlo will stay here with you. There's food in the kitchen, anything you need. Be careful. He stopped, turned back. What? Whatever you're about to do. Be careful. I grabbed his hand, held it tight. Luca needs you. And I stopped. Couldn't quite say the rest. But Dante heard it anyway. I saw it in the way his eyes softened, the way his fingers tightened on mine for just a moment. I'll come back, he promised. I always do. Then he was gone, leaving me alone in his penthouse with Carlo standing guard and the city spreading below like a glittering map of danger and desire, violence and vulnerability. Everything I should have run from and couldn't. I walked to the windows, pressed my palm against the glass, and whispered a prayer to whoever might be listening. Keep him safe. Please keep him safe. Because somewhere between helping his brother and kissing him in his penthouse, I'd crossed the final line. I'd fallen completely, irreversibly, for Dante Vittori, and there was no going back. 3 days passed in Dante's penthouse. 3 days of watching the city below and wondering what war he was fighting in my name. 3 days of Carlo bringing meals and reports, always vague, always designed to reassure, while I paced the luxury cage I'd agreed to. Tommy called twice. I lied both times, said I was on a special intensive training program for work. He believed me because he wanted to, because the alternative was too complicated to explain. How do you tell your brother you're falling for a mafia boss? On the third night, the elevator opened at 2 a.m. Dante stepped out, and my heart stopped. Blood on his shirt, a cut above his eyebrow, knuckles split and bruised. He moved like every step hurt. But his eyes... God, his eyes were still predator-sharp, still scanning for threats. What happened? I was across the room before I'd consciously decided to move. It's over. His voice was rough. The Morettis backed down. You're bleeding. Not my blood. Mostly. He swayed slightly and I grabbed his arm, steered him toward the couch. I'm fine, Mira. You're a terrible liar. I knelt in front of him, carefully unbuttoning his ruined shirt. Underneath, I found bruises blooming across his ribs, a bandage on his side already seeping red. Hospital now, no hospitals. They ask too many questions. Then you have a doctor who doesn't ask questions. Already saw him. He patched me up, said I'd live. Dante's hand came up, cupping my cheek. You're crying. I was. I hadn't even realized. You're hurt. I've been hurt before. I'll be hurt again. It's part of... Don't. I pressed my fingers to his lips. Don't tell me it's part of your world. Part of what you do. I know what you do, Dante. I've known since that first night. But seeing it... My voice cracked. Seeing you covered in blood makes it real in a way nothing else has. He pulled me up onto the couch beside him, ignoring his obvious pain. His arms came around me, solid and warm and alive. I'm sorry. I never wanted you to see this side. Why did the Morettis back down? Silence. Then quietly. Because I made them understand what I'd do if they touched you. Made it very, very clear. How? You don't want that answer. Yes, I do. If I'm in this, if I'm falling for you, I need to know. All of it. Dante pulled back enough to meet my eyes. Their underboss had been skimming money. I'd known for months but hadn't moved because the evidence was useful leverage. Tonight I used it. Threatened to expose him to his own boss, which would have meant his death. In exchange for my silence, he called off the hit on you. That's it? Just leverage? That's it. But I saw the lie in his eyes. Saw what he wasn't saying. The violence he'd committed to get that leverage. The threats he'd made that went far beyond simple blackmail. And God help me, I didn't push. Didn't demand the full truth. Because part of me didn't want to know. Didn't want to confirm what I already suspected. That Dante Vittori's protection came wrapped in blood and brutality. Can I ask you something? I whispered. Anything. Do you regret it? The life you're living? He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, every day. But regret doesn't change reality. My father built this empire, and when he died, the responsibility fell to me. If I walk away, hundreds of families lose their livelihoods. Dozens of businesses collapse. The power vacuum would start a war that makes the Moretti situation look like a playground dispute. So you're trapped. So I'm trapped. His arms tightened around me. But you're not. That's why I'll never ask you to stay permanently. We'll never ask you to accept this life, because you deserve better than blood money and bodyguards. Better than looking over your shoulder and wondering if today's the day someone targets you to hurt me. What if I don't want better? The words escaped before I could stop them. What if I just want you? Dante's breath caught. Mira, I know it's crazy. I know I barely know you. But these past few weeks, watching you with Luca, seeing how much you care beneath the cold exterior, the way you protect everyone around you even when it costs you everything. I turned in his arms, faced him fully. I'm not afraid of you, Dante. I'm afraid of losing you. He kissed me then, desperate and gentle all at once, like I was something precious he couldn't quite believe he was allowed to touch. His hands tangled in my hair and I tasted copper and possibility, danger and devotion. When we broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. I'll give you a choice, he said quietly. Tomorrow you can walk away. I'll make sure you and Tommy are set for life. You'll never have to worry about money or safety again. Or, he stopped, his thumb tracing my lower lip. Or you can stay. Build something with me. Accept the guards and the danger and the reality that loving me means living in the crossfire. That's not a choice. That's an ultimatum. It's honesty, and you deserve at least that much. We sat there in the darkness, wrapped around each other, while the city glittered below, and the weight of impossible decisions settled on my shoulders. My phone buzzed. Tommy. Hey, sis. Doc said I walked 200 feet today with just the cane. Can you believe it? I feel like I could run a marathon. Thanks for everything. You literally saved my life. Tears burned behind my eyes. This was why I'd agreed to help Luca. This was what mattered. My brother. Walking again. Living again. Having a future I'd helped make possible. But somewhere along the way, my reasons had shifted. Changed. Deepened into something I couldn't untangle. I need time, I whispered. Take all the time you need. Dante kissed my temple. Just promise me one thing. What? Whatever you decide, make sure it's what you truly want. Not what you think you should want. Not what's safe or logical or easy. What you actually desperately want. And if what I want is impossible? His smile was sad and beautiful. Then we'll figure out how to make the impossible work. Because that's what I do, Mira. I take situations that should destroy me and I survive them. We'll survive this too. I fell asleep in his arms that night, listening to his heartbeat and trying to imagine a future where loving him didn't mean losing myself. But deep down, I already knew the truth. I'd made my choice the moment I'd kissed him. The moment I'd cried seeing him hurt. The moment I'd realized that a life without Dante, Vittori felt emptier than life with all his danger. Tomorrow I'd tell him. Tomorrow. I'd choose the impossible. Morning. Came with golden light streaming through floor to ceiling, windows and the smell of coffee. From the kitchen, I found Dante on the terrace, shirtless despite the October chill, his bruised ribs stark against tanned skin. He held his phone to his ear, speaking quiet Italian that sounded almost gentle, until I caught words like eliminate and permanent. He sensed me, turned and immediately ended the call. Morning. His smile was careful, like he was afraid of what I might say. How'd you sleep? Better than you, probably. I gestured to the shadows under his eyes. Did you sleep at all? Few hours. He pulled out a chair for me, that unconscious chivalry that probably came from his mother, from some part of his upbringing that preceded violence. Coffee? Please. We sat in comfortable silence while the city woke up below us. Somewhere down there, Tommy was probably doing his morning exercises. Marco was opening the diner. Normal people living normal lives, and here I was, contemplating abandoning normal forever. I've been thinking, Dante said quietly, about what I asked you yesterday. It wasn't fair. You didn't ask for any of this. Life's not fair. If it were, you wouldn't have inherited an empire you didn't want. Luca wouldn't have been in that accident. Tommy, my voice caught. Tommy would still be able to ride his motorcycle without pain. But we work with what we have. Exactly. I met his eyes. I've made my decision. I watched him brace, saw his hands tighten on his coffee cup, saw his shoulders tense like he was preparing for a blow. I'm staying. The cup nearly slipped from his fingers. What? I'm staying with you, for however long this works. I leaned forward. But I have conditions. Name them. First, I keep working with Luca until he's walking independently. I don't care about the danger. He needs me, and I don't abandon people who need me. Agreed. Second, I keep some part of my old life. Maybe not the diner shifts, but I need to see Tommy regularly. Need to maintain friendships. I won't let your world swallow me completely. Understood. With security, but yes. Third, this was the hard one. You don't lie to me. Not about the violence, not about the danger, not about any of it. I can't love someone I don't truly know. Dante stood, crossed to me, pulled me up into his arms. You just said you love me. I stopped. Realized he was right. I do. God help me, I do. He kissed me deeply, thoroughly, like he was memorizing the taste of my surrender. When we broke apart, his eyes were suspiciously bright. I'll tell you anything you want to know. Show you everything. The businesses, the operations, all of it. But Mira, his thumb traced my cheekbone. Some things I've done, once you know them, you can't unknow them. Can't unsee them? I'm stronger than you think. I know exactly how strong you are. That's why I'm terrified of breaking you. Then don't. I grabbed his face with both hands. Don't lie to protect me. Don't hide the darkness thinking I can't handle it. Trust me to know my own limits. You're either the bravest person I've ever met or the most foolish. Maybe both. He laughed. A real laugh, rare and beautiful, and pulled me closer. My uncle is coming tomorrow. He handles the political connections, keeps the legitimate businesses running. He's going to hate that I've brought you into this. Because I'm a liability? Because you're a weakness he can exploit if he ever turns on me. Dante's voice went cold. In my world, weakness is deadly, and I've just handed my enemies a nuclear weapon. Do you regret it? No, but I should. That's how I know I'm completely lost. We spent the day together in his penthouse, talking, learning, slowly dismantling the walls between us. He showed me files on his businesses, explained the complex web of legitimate and illegitimate operations that kept his empire running. Showed me photographs of his parents, told me stories about growing up Vittori in a world where family meant loyalty unto death. My father, he said quietly, holding a photo of a stern-looking man with Dante's eyes, always said there were two types of men in our world. Ones who did terrible things and felt nothing, and ones who did terrible things and carried the weight forever. He was the second type. And you? I'm the second type drowning under the weight. Some days I wonder if I'll break under it. You won't. I lace my fingers through his, because you have people who love you. Luca, me. That's what keeps us from drowning, knowing someone will pull us up when we sink too deep. That evening, Luca video called. His face lit up when he saw us together on the screen. Finally, I thought you two would dance around this for months. He was in the pool, gripping the parallel bars. Watch this, Mira. He lifted himself, legs trembling but holding. 10 seconds, 15, 20. Oh my God. My voice cracked. Luca, that's incredible. Doctor said maybe another month before I can try a walker. His grin was incandescent. All because you saw something in me no one else did, including myself. After we hung up, Dante pulled me into his lap. You gave me my brother back. Do you understand what that's worth? Family, I said simply. Family is worth everything. Yes, he kissed my temple. It is. We made love that night. Slow and tender and intense, learning each other's bodies with the kind of focused attention that made my breath catch and my heart race. Afterward, wrapped in his arms, I felt safe in a way I'd never expected. This was home. This dangerous, impossible man was home, and tomorrow, I'd start learning what it truly meant to live in his world. Dante's uncle arrived at noon in a motorcade that screamed power and paranoia. Giovanni Vittori was in his 60s, silver-haired, with eyes that had seen too much and forgiven too little. He looked at me like I was a problem to be solved. So, you're the girl. His English was flawless, accent barely detectable. The one who's made my nephew forget basic security protocols. Uncle. Dante's voice carried warning. Mira's here because I want her here. What you want and what's smart are rarely the same thing. Giovanni circled me like a shark evaluating prey. Do you know what you've gotten yourself into, girl? Yes, do you? Do you understand that every rival family now knows Dante Vittori has a weakness? That they'll use you, exploit you, potentially kill you to hurt him? I understand. And you stay anyway. He laughed, bitter and harsh. Either you're incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. I haven't decided which. Enough. Dante stepped between us. You're here to discuss the waterfront contracts, not interrogate my personal life. Your personal life is my business when it affects our operations. Giovanni's eyes blazed. The Morettis are regrouping. The feds are circling, and you've given them ammunition by falling in love with some... Finish that sentence and we're done. Dante's voice dropped to lethal quiet. Mira is off limits. Completely. Anyone who threatens her answers to me personally. Uncle and nephew stared at each other, and I saw decades of complicated history in that look. Love and resentment, loyalty and frustration, family bonds tested by violence and necessity. Finally, Giovanni nodded. Fine, but she needs training. If she's going to be in this world, she needs to know how to protect herself. Already arranged. And she needs to understand the rules. All of them. She will. Giovanni turned back to me. Rule 1. You see nothing, hear nothing, say nothing outside this family. Not to friends, not to police, not even in confession if you're the praying type. Understood. Rule 2. You trust no one completely. Ever. Even people who seem loyal have prices, and eventually someone will meet that price. I glanced at Dante. He nodded confirmation. Rule 3. Giovanni's expression softened fractionally. You take care of my nephews. Both of them. Because God knows they're all the family I have left that's worth a damn. I will. Then welcome to the Vittori family, girl. May God have mercy on your soul because we certainly won't. After Giovanni left, Dante pulled me into his study. I'm sorry. He's protecting you. I get it. I wrapped my arms around his waist. He's right, though. I need training. I need to know how to defend myself. Marco starts tomorrow. He's the best defensive instructor I have. The scarred guy. Carlo, and yes, he'll teach you everything. How to spot a threat. How to escape if necessary. How to survive if escape isn't possible. The reality of what I'd agreed to settled heavier on my shoulders. This is really my life now. It can still not be. I'd understand, Dante, I'm not leaving, but I'm allowed to be scared. You'd be insane not to be. He kissed my forehead. Scared means smart. Scared means you understand the stakes. My phone rang. Tommy. Hey, you busy? I have the best news. Never too busy for you. What's up? Doctor cleared me for outpatient therapy. I'm coming home next week. His joy was infectious. Can you believe it? 6 months ago they said I'd never walk. Now I'm coming home. Tears streamed down my face. That's incredible. I'm so proud of you. Couldn't have done it without you, sis. All those late nights when you visited, when you pushed me, when you believed in me. His voice cracked. You saved my life. After we hung up, I collapsed into Dante's arms, sobbing. What's wrong? His voice was tight with concern. Nothing. Everything. Tommy's coming home. I looked up at him through my tears. I did it. We did it. Luca's getting better, Tommy's coming home, and You're overwhelmed. I'm happy. Terrified, but happy. He held me while I cried, his arms solid and safe around me. This was the man the city feared. The one who could order deaths with a phone call. Who controlled an empire built on violence and secrecy. But with me, he was gentle, patient, real. That night, Carlo started my training. We worked in a private gym in the building's basement, learning how to break holds, how to spot exits, how to stay aware without looking paranoid. The goal, Carlo said, demonstrating a pressure point technique, isn't to win fights. It's to survive long enough for help to arrive. You're not a soldier. You're someone worth protecting. By the end of 2 hours, I was bruised, exhausted, and significantly more aware of how vulnerable I actually was. Same time tomorrow, Carlo said. Every day for the next month until this becomes instinct. Upstairs, I found Dante on the terrace, staring at the city with an expression I couldn't read. What's wrong? The feds are expanding their investigation. They know something, but they don't know what. And until they show their hand, he stopped. We're in a holding pattern, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Can I help? You help by existing, by giving me a reason to build something better than what my father left me. He pulled me into his arms. I've been thinking, after Luca's fully recovered, after this Fed investigation resolves, maybe we could leave. Start over somewhere else. Leave your empire? Giovanni could run things. He's always wanted more control anyway. Dante's hand traced patterns on my back. I'm tired, Mira. Tired of the violence, the constant threats, the reality that any day might be my last. Maybe it's time to walk away. You'd do that? For me? For us? For a chance at a normal life? He kissed me softly. What do you think? Could you see yourself living somewhere quiet? Maybe a small coastal town where no one knows the Vittori name? Hope bloomed in my chest, dangerous and beautiful. I could see it. I really could. We stood there in the darkness, holding each other and imagining impossible futures. Below us, the city pulsed with life and danger and all the reasons we should have run from each other. But we didn't run. We stayed, wrapped together, choosing each other despite the cost, choosing the impossible. The call came at 4 a.m. Dante's phone, the one that only rang for emergencies, shattered the peaceful darkness. He was out of bed before I'd fully woken, voice clipped and cold. When? How many? I'll be there in 20 minutes. He was pulling on clothes before I could sit up. What happened? The feds raided 3 of our warehouses simultaneously. This isn't an investigation anymore. It's an assault. His eyes met mine, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Fear. They have someone on the inside. Someone who knows our operations well enough to coordinate this. Who? I don't know. But when I find out... He stopped, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jump. I have to go. Carlo will stay with you. Don't leave this building for any reason. Dante... He crossed back to the bed, kissed me hard and desperate. I love you. If anything happens, Giovanni has instructions. You and Tommy will be taken care of. Nothing's going to happen. Promise me you'll stay here. Promise me you'll stay safe. I promise. He left, and the penthouse felt cavernous without him. I stood at the windows, watching the city wake up, and tried not to imagine all the ways this could go wrong. Carlo made breakfast at 7 a.m., but I couldn't eat. My phone stayed silent. No updates from Dante, no news, nothing but oppressive quiet. At 10 a.m., my phone finally rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mira Lawson? A woman's voice, official, controlled. This is Special Agent Morrison with the FBI. We need to talk about Dante Vittori. My blood turned to ice. I don't know what you're talking about. Miss Lawson, we know you've been living with Mr. Vittori. We know about your relationship with his brother, and we know you're a good person caught in a very bad situation. She paused. We can help you, but only if you cooperate. I want a lawyer. You're not under arrest. We just want to talk, to help you understand what kind of man you've gotten involved with. I know exactly what kind of man he is. Do you? Do you know about the money laundering through the waterfront businesses? The protection rackets? The murders? Her voice softened, falsely sympathetic. Dante Vittori is a criminal, Miss Lawson, and if you continue to be associated with him, you'll go down too when we finally build our case. Are we done? Think about it. Think about your brother, Tommy, right? Still recovering from his accident? Do you really want him visiting you in prison? I hung up, hands shaking. Carlo appeared immediately. What did they say? They want me to turn on Dante. Will you? I met his eyes. No, he nodded, satisfied. Good, because if you had, I'd have to kill you. Boss's orders. Anyone who betrays the family doesn't get a second chance. The casual way he said it, like discussing the weather, made my stomach turn. This was the reality of Dante's world. Loyalty or death. No middle ground. I need to see Luca. Boss said, I need to see Luca. Now. Either you drive me or I'll call a car service. Carlo studied me, then nodded. Full security, and if anything seems wrong, we leave immediately. Understood? 20 minutes later, we pulled up at St. Catherine's. Luca was in his room, working through exercises with his physical therapist. When he saw my face, he dismissed the therapist immediately. What happened? I told him everything. The raids, the FBI call, Agent Morrison's threats. Luca's expression went from concerned to furious. They're putting pressure on you to get to Dante. Will it work? The raids? Depends on what they found. We're usually very careful, but if someone really did betray us... He stopped. Dante's prepared for this. He's been preparing for years. Luca, I'm scared. Good. Fear keeps you alive. He grabbed my hand. But trust Dante. He's survived worse than overzealous feds and Moretti power plays. He'll survive this too. And if he doesn't, then I'll take care of you. Both you and Tommy. That's what family does. The word settled over me, warm and terrifying. Family. Somewhere in the past 8 weeks, I'd stopped being an outsider and become part of something larger, more complicated, more dangerous than I'd ever imagined. We spent an hour together before Carlo insisted we leave. As we walked to the elevator, I noticed a man in a dark suit watching us from the lobby. Not Vittori security. Someone else. Carlo, I see him. Keep walking. Don't look back. In the SUV, Carlo made 3 phone calls in rapid Italian. By the time we reached Dante's building, 2 additional security cars had joined our escort. What's happening? Someone's watching you? Could be feds, could be Moretti, could be someone else entirely. He met my eyes in the rearview mirror. You're officially a target now, Miss Lawson. Welcome to the family. Back in the penthouse, I paced the living room, unable to sit still. Hours passed with no word from Dante. The sun set, the city lights came on, and still nothing. At midnight, the elevator opened. Dante stepped out, and I ran to him. He caught me, held me tight, and I felt him trembling. What happened? They arrested 12 of my men, seized $4 million in assets, and they have a witness willing to testify about operations I ran 3 years ago. His voice was hollow. Giovanni's already working on bail and legal strategy, but Mira, it's bad. It's really bad. The FBI called me, wanted me to cooperate. His arms tightened. What did you say? No, obviously no. But Dante, they're not going to stop. They're going to keep pushing until either you break or they find something they can use. I know. He pulled back, cupped my face. Which is why you need to leave. Tonight. I'll have Carlo drive you and Tommy to a safe house upstate. Stay there until this is over. I'm not leaving you. Mira. No. You told me to choose, and I chose. I chose this, chose you, chose all of it. I don't run when things get hard. This isn't hard. It's potentially deadly. The feds are watching, the Morettis are circling, and my own organization might have a traitor. I can't, his voice broke. I can't protect you and fight this war simultaneously. Please. Please just go somewhere safe. I saw the desperation in his eyes, the fear he was barely containing. This wasn't the controlled Mafia boss. This was a man terrified of losing everything. Okay? I whispered. I'll go. But Dante, you have to promise me something. Anything. Win. Whatever it takes, however brutal it has to be, you win. And then you come find me. And we build that quiet life we talked about. He kissed me, desperate and deep and full of promises he might not be able to keep. I'll win. I always do. And then he rested his forehead against mine. Then we disappear, build something real, something clean. I'll be waiting. Carlo packed my things while Dante made calls, arranging security, setting up the safe house, coordinating with Giovanni. Within an hour, I was in an SUV with Carlo and 2 other guards, heading north out of the city. I looked back once, saw Dante standing on his terrace, silhouetted against the city lights, watching me leave, and prayed with everything in me that it wasn't the last time I'd see him alive. The safe house was a cabin 2 hours north, isolated, heavily secured, surrounded by woods that made me feel both protected and trapped. Tommy arrived the next morning, confused and worried. Mira, what the hell is going on? Some guys showed up at my apartment at 6 a.m. saying I needed to come here for my safety. I told him everything, all of it. Dante, the family, the danger, the choices I'd made. He listened without interrupting, his expression cycling through shock, anger, and finally, surprisingly, understanding. So you fell in love with a Mafia boss. I know how it sounds. It sounds like you're happy. Scared, but happy. I've seen you these past 2 months, sis. Seen you smile more than you have in years. Seen you come alive. He grabbed my hand. Is he good to you? He's everything I didn't know I needed. Then I support you. But Mira, his face went serious. If this ends badly, if he hurts you or gets you killed, I'm going to find a way to resurrect him so I can kill him again. I laughed through my tears. Deal. 3 days passed. Carlo received updates. The feds were pressing charges. Giovanni was negotiating. Dante was consolidating power and dealing with the aftermath of the raids. On day 4, Luca video called. He was actually standing with only a walker for support. Oh my God. I pressed my hand to the screen. Luca, you're standing. Walked 15 feet today. Doctor says another month and I won't even need the walker. His grin was incandescent. I wanted you to see. Wanted you to know that your faith in me paid off. I'm so proud of you. Dante asks about you constantly. Luca hesitated. He's different since you left. Harder. Colder. Like he's locked everything soft away so he can do what needs to be done. Is he winning? He's surviving. That's the same thing in our world. After Luca hung up, I stood at the cabin window watching snow begin to fall. Winter was coming, and with it, the final confrontation that would determine all our futures. On day 7, the news broke. Federal charges dropped against 11 of the 12 arrested men. One had flipped and entered witness protection. The investigation would continue, but the immediate assault had failed. Dante had won. My phone rang an hour later. His voice was rough, exhausted, triumphant. It's over. The feds backed down. The Morettis accepted a peace treaty brokered by the commission. We're clear. You did it. We did it. Your strength, your faith, it kept me human when I wanted to become a monster. He paused. I'm coming to get you, tomorrow. And then we build something new, something clean. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the cabin's guest room, listening to Tommy snore in the next room and wind howl through the trees, and thought about everything that had changed. 2 months ago, I'd been a waitress struggling to pay rent. Now I was in love with a man who controlled an empire, who'd fought a war to keep me safe, who'd promised me a future I'd never dared imagine. At dawn, the sound of vehicles made me jump to the window. 3 black SUVs pulling up to the cabin in the gray morning light. Dante stepped out of the lead vehicle. I was out the door before I'd consciously decided to move, running through the snow in bare feet and pajamas, not caring about the cold or the guards or anything except getting to him. He caught me, lifted me, held me like I was the only thing keeping him anchored to earth. I love you. The words poured out of him. I love you so much it terrifies me. Losing you would destroy me in ways bullets and federal charges never could. You're not losing me. Ever. I pulled back enough to see his face. New lines around his eyes. Exhaustion carved into every feature, but alive and here in mine. What happens now? Now we meet with Giovanni and Luca. Finalize the transition. And then, he smiled, and it was the freest expression I'd ever seen on him. Then we disappear. Small coastal town, new names, different life, just us. Can you really walk away? I already did. 2 days ago, I signed over operational control to Giovanni. I'm keeping minimal ownership in the legitimate businesses. But the rest... He shook his head. The rest is his problem now. Luca comes with us if he wants. He deserves a chance at a normal life too. Inside the cabin, Tommy was waiting, standing without his cane, ready to defend me if necessary. When he saw the way Dante and I looked at each other, he relaxed. So, you're the guy. I'm the guy. Dante extended his hand. I'm in love with your sister, and I promise you, I'll spend the rest of my life making sure she's happy, safe, and free to be exactly who she wants to be. Tommy studied him, then shook his hand. Hurt her and I'll find a way to make you regret it, Mafia connections or not. I'd expect nothing less. 3 months later, I stood on a beach in a small Oregon coastal town. Dante was beside me, his hand warm in mine. Behind us, a cottage we'd bought under new names. Simple. Beautiful. Far from everything we'd left behind. Luca visited every month, walking with only a slight limp now, talking about the marine biology classes he'd started at the local college. Tommy had moved nearby, working as a physical therapist and dating a woman he'd met at the hospital. Giovanni ran the family business, leaner, cleaner, slowly transitioning toward legitimacy. He called occasionally to update Dante, to make sure we were safe, to remind us that we'd always have family if we needed them. But mostly, we just lived. Dante taught at the local community college, Italian literature and language. I worked with disabled youth, helping them find the strength I'd once helped Luca discover. Some nights, I saw darkness in Dante's eyes, saw the weight of choices he'd made, lives he'd taken, the reality that you could leave that world, but it never fully left you. But then he'd pull me close and whisper, "You saved me, from myself, from my fate, from everything I thought I had to be. You showed me there was another way. We saved each other," I'd correct, because that was the truth. In the darkest moments, in the impossible choices, in the space between danger and devotion, we'd found each other, a poor waitress and a mafia boss, choosing love over legacy, peace over power, possibility over everything we'd ever known. And if sometimes I woke from nightmares about federal agents or rival families or threats I couldn't name, Dante was always there, solid and warm and real, reminding me that we'd survived. We'd survived. And we'd built something beautiful from the ashes. Standing on that beach, watching waves crash against the shore, I thought about the girl I'd been 8 months ago, exhausted, struggling, just trying to help her brother. I thought about the choices I'd made, the lines I'd crossed, the love I'd found in the most impossible place, and I smiled. Because this quiet life with a reformed mafia boss who looked at me like I hung the moon, this chosen family built from broken pieces, this future we'd fought so hard to claim, this was worth every risk, every fear, every impossible moment. "What are you thinking?" Dante asked, pulling me closer as the sun set over the Pacific. That I'd choose you again. Every single time, even knowing everything, all of it, especially knowing everything. I turned in his arms, met his dark eyes. "You're my impossible choice, Dante Vittori, and I'm never letting go." He kissed me then, slow and deep and full of promises that stretched into forever. Behind us, the cottage waited. Our new life waited, a future built on truth instead of secrets, love instead of fear, possibility instead of chains. We'd walked through fire to find each other, and we'd emerged not unscathed, but stronger, together, free.